We are here in the beautiful little town of Ipswich, Massachusetts. And, oh, there's a police over there. Yeah. So today we are, this is a Saturday, and we are here, and we're going to an old house. It's going to be a few hours here today of just enjoying this very historic place. A very old town, very beautiful little town, and it's September, and it's just a very nice time of year. So
3,000 natives that lived here, say around 1600 or so. White Europeans were starting to come in this neighborhood. They were fishing. They came fishing right off the coast here. Apparently it was the best fishing grounds in the world at that time, 500 years ago. And so they would go fishing, and when they went fishing, they would catch a halibut, and then they would want to dry it, or they catch a cod and they want to dry that thing. They would come on shore, and in the marshes in the area, they would dry things. They would interact with the natives that lived here. Okay, so this is it's a replica of a 1650 house for a family of 8. All right, the way this story comes about is there was a tragic accident that happened to the Knight family. Their house burnt down and their youngest one died in the process. And so the community was very upset in 1650 about this tragic accident. So the town had town meeting, and we voted, article number 4, we went and voted to rebuild the house for the family. So we actually have a bill of sale in our town meeting records for this Sumner beam, those common rafters, joists there. The post here, you've got the girt there, and the plate there, all these different parts and pieces, the table here, the bed there, the chair, all these things you see in front of you, we have the bill of sale for in the town to rebuild this house for this family. All right, so typical family of 8. Well, let's start with simple things. All right, fireplace. This is not a big roaring fire. This is a very small cooking fire. So this is probably too much wood there. It should be a much smaller cooking fire. You'll notice here, this is 1600s, Dad's chair's right here. And then you might notice Mom doesn't have a chair. Unfortunately, she is busy going back and forth and, doing what she's got to do. Kids, I'm not sure if you noticed your chairs because they're not here, because you don't have them. So Dad sat, and then we all see either stood. You might get a bench if you're lucky, but most of the time you stood here. And every person in the family would have a spoon. This is in 1600s, so you have a spoon. We have not invented the fork and knife. That's a little later. That's around 1700. But in 1600s, you'd have a spoon. You'd have one. You'd have one. You had one. Each one of you had a spoon. If you went to your friend's house, no problem. You brought your spoon with you. Now, this spoon had to come from Europe. So you had to hop in a boat, sail across the Atlantic Ocean, that's what, 3,000 miles plus, go buy the spoon. Then you have to sail back here, another 3,000 miles. That would take you about 6 months to get this spoon. So this was a very expensive item here. Let's see, wooden plates, obviously those are easy to build here. Ceramics, there's a clay bank right over here by the river. It's easy to get to. This is actually from that clay bank. These are reproductions, of course. Let's see, what other fun stuff. Okay, so we're done with dinner. So we take the board, we put it away, put Dad's chair out of the way. There's bed. That's for Mom and Dad down here. You guys, the rest of the gang, you guys get to go upstairs. Here's your ladder, and then there's your loft and your bedroom up there.
Yeah, there's a place up there.
It's a good thing you don't know.
Oh, that's a nice little loft up in there, huh?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, and that's also where you basically had all your dried goods. So your corn, and you dried your corn. Oh, that was hanging from the ceiling. And occasionally a mouse might get into that stuff, and maybe the mouse will be up there with you guys, and yeah. Oh, don't forget about the bats too. Again, that's where the kids went. Mom and Dad had the space down here. It's lovely. Hey, can I show you what that is?
All right.
So before we had invented a refrigerator, let's step backwards, shall we? This is a refrigerator. We call this a root cellar today. So basically, it's a stone wall all the way around, and it's in the inside of the house, so that, say, bears, wolves, coyotes, foxes, or any other thing you can think of, they couldn't really get into your food supply. So this is even though it's like 80 degrees out right now, yes, you can keep that about 40 degrees, which is not that different than your refrigerator home today. So it's about the same temperature down there. So they had a refrigerator, they just didn't have freezers. A lot of books out there. But a family would have a book, and the one book you probably would have is a Bible. And so you needed a special place to put it. So let's say it rains in here, you've left the window open and it's raining. You want to make sure that your one book is protected. So that's a Bible box. This is basically, well, you need water. Where's the closest place for water? Luckily it's the river right there. So you would get 2 buckets and put this on your shoulders, and then you'd have to go and carry the water back here. What we
Can we fit that on one of them?
Absolutely. Why
David,
not?
you want to get on there and see if it fits on you?
Whatever. One of you guys definitely want to try. All right, there's that side. We only have halfway there. Let's get the other half now. Now this is without the water. Now you have to add, let's see, that's 8 pounds each. So another 16 pounds on top of that. And oh, you're too old for that. That'd be more your job or your job. Sorry. You guys are way too old for this kind of job.
So those pieces of glass are all individual little pieces.
Absolutely. Yes.
Put together with lead in between them.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're hand blown. I don't know if you can just see some of the waviness of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and fun fact, just in case, do you realize glass is actually a liquid? It's not a solid, it's a liquid. It's a very, very slow moving liquid. 10,000 years, you come back 10,000 years from now, there'll be a puddle at the bottom of this when it finally moved down. It's an extremely slow moving, so I have better examples in the next building where you can see the glass is slowly moving down. Oh, you know, that glass might be 300-400 years old and it's moved, you know, a millimeter or two. Yeah. With easy things.
So what's the name of this house?
This is the Knight House.
The Knight House.
Yeah, the
Okay.
family's last name is Knight.
Okay.
And so yeah, it's named after them, the Knights.
The Knight House. Okay.
It's about 18 inches right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. The floor pine. Don't forget, the natives did not cut down the big trees. They left the big ones. So you had a 500-year-old tree, and the white Europeans come along and go, woohoo! And then you're like, I've never seen a tree so big. So they'll cut the thing down, and they were making these large panels. And they were very excited about it.
And the house would have no insulation, right? It was just like this.
Nope, this is what you got.
So, so when it was cold winter, it was really cold in here even. It was just,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice night.
Oh yes. They're angled. If you look here, like this right here, they cut it at an angle so that the water would come down and then go outside.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's probably the best example right there, looking at that spot. But it's basically 90% medicine. When we go around the corner, you'll see a better example of it.
This is a little garden here.
It's fenced in to keep the animals out. So your chickens and your pigs and your horses, whatever, they were all free range. They were just wandering around everywhere, and you just kept the fence to keep them out of your medicine. This is a rich person's house. If that's a commoner's house, like you and I, this is a very rich person.
And here is what would happen to you if you needed a punishment, right?
Oh, if you skip church on Sunday, guaranteed. If you trespassed onto someone else's property, yes. If you cut down a tree in this town without permission, yes.
David, you want to try it? Have your arms and your head through there.
I can't even see that.
Right over on this side.
It's on this side. Yeah, you still can't. No, I have to lift. Oh, this is no problem getting out. Oh, and then you get it.
Your feet. You sit on this and your feet go through there.
Oh.
We locked it, sorry.
So what they would do, I would say.
So that would be a place to sit.
Okay.
And that's a place you'd have to stand.
And then you get what?
Nope, just hang there for hours.
And then all the passersby on the street would look at you.
Or and insult you, and then probably if you got a rotten tomato, or throw the So somebody in the 1950s wrote their PhD on 17th century medicine. This is his PhD. This is This is a world-class 17th century New England garden. I don't know what's in front of me.
Wow.
You know they're all labeled. Everything is labeled.
Okay.
But you know, it's 1950s labels. And I don't know what I'm looking at, but apparently this is what you would expect to find
Uh-huh.
in a typical New England 17th century family garden.
Yeah.
And I don't, yeah, like I said.
Lovage. That's lovage. What is this over here?
Yeah.
Peony. Oh, there's
All right, you know stuff.
peony there. There's some sage right there. This looks like thyme. I'm not sure, but it looks like thyme.
But I guess it isn't.
And over there is more, oh, that's oregano. Oh, this is cool. Bethany, how do you like this garden?
Yeah, I can smell oregano.
Yeah, you can smell the oregano. It's really, really sweet smelling. Oh, this is a perfect garden for you, huh, Bethany? You like this. There's the roses here. Over here is, what does that say? Savory Saturetta montana. Huh.
Yeah, I can smell
There's more tall rose bushes there. A lot of this stuff I don't recognize.
There's some chives.
Oh, there's chives.
So this is a
Okay, here's a plaque says John Whipple House, National Historic Landmark.
the original part of the house. If you look here, we came through the door here. You're looking out that window. So the original house is just from here to just beyond this door.
There's a parting thing.
Oh yeah. So you know your stuff well better than I do. So obviously you got the carting for either wool.
Hey, Papa, remember
Yep.
this lantern we saw at Sturbridge Village?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
So
a
we
lantern.
have obviously you go carting here, then you go and you turn it into yarn. And two of my students found these things in the river. We had a flood that came through and it moved the bank. And when they found, they went digging through the bank after it moved, and they found these things in the river.
What are they made of?
They are. I'm gonna call them ceramic. I'm not using the right
Okay.
word.
Like, huh. Okay.
I know just enough to tell you, but I don't know the right answer.
Can I touch it?
Go right ahead. Like I said, that is from 1670 right there.
Wow,
The
that's
size of the hole and the location of the hole dates it apparently. Apparently
Okay.
they changed the style.
So this is also made out of that.
Yeah, that's
wow.
about 1690.
That's a smoking pipe.
Yeah. And they found it next to where they would have a ship.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so
Very
apparently
gentle,
someone
David.
just kind of sitting on board the ship, just got done with it, just threw it overboard. So we actually, there are 47 houses in Ipswich that happen to be from before 1700.
Uh-huh.
And so we went and aged each one by looking at the tree growth rates. We got about 600 years worth of records in town, and so we were able to age these things. So this is a chestnut tree that came down in 1677 or 7 or so. And then this family had servants, as in somebody that lived over there, and they would cook for them. So this is a dad chair, because you can tell because it's got the side. But this is a mum chair because it's open on either side. They could go all the way, send a ship to Europe to go pick up things, modern things like forks and knives. That's been around 1700 or so. And a pewter plate, which is a tin and lead combo. Sorry, what they drank? They would drink ales, they would drink hard ciders, and they would drink rum. Anything with just a little bit of alcohol. This is not the modern day 40% alcohol type things. This is just like 1 or 2% alcohol. And so that would be any age group. And then these are just random pots and pans that we have roughly around 1700-ish from the town of Ipswich, but not necessarily really good ones. Like you got the toaster there, you've got a baking oven there. Let's see, obviously a big stew pot there, very large fry pan.
So that fry pan has a long handle, so you
Very
can
long handle.
you can stand back and fry your eggs.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yep, that's an ivory handle. Same with that one there. Because,
Ivory, wow.
We didn't realize that, well, we didn't know what we know today. Rural style ornament right there.
Oh, this edge here.
Puritans, they were very plain people. They did not want to have much showy things.
Uh-huh.
So this is about the showiest they would get
Uh-huh.
to show off their wealth.
Uh-huh.
There are 47 houses that are from before 1700 in this town, and the only house that has windows underneath the cylinder beam is this one here. They're showing off well. These were merchants. They would own a ship, and they would take a ship from here. They would go and get cod, fish offshore. They would dry the fish, and then they would take the dried fish, put it in barrels, and then they would put it in the ship, and they would sail down to the Caribbean, to, I don't know, pick any Caribbean island you can think of, say Cuba. And then they would sell the fish to the people that were owned slaves down there, and they would go from there. They would feed the people that were making, they were taking sugar cane and turning it into molasses. Once you got the molasses, they would bring it back. We had a rum distillery in 1650 in this town. So right around at the end of this Poplar Street where we had the rum distillery, about 300 feet that direction. And from there, we would make rum. And then that rum, once we made it, we couldn't drink it off around here. We'd ship that over to Europe. So they go to like Amsterdam, any place but England. They would go and sell it over there, buy enough money to buy the glass or the manufactured goods of like this cup here or that plate there.
Yeah.
And then they would go and come back, and they just moved around. So they were ship captains and they were merchants. That is the coolest thing in the room. This is a childminder. In other words, if you want your little sister not to wander around, you put her in there. But if you wanted her, so she couldn't move, but if you wanted her to move around, no problem. There's a word here that would come out, and then she could push herself all around the room. Okay. So this is like, you know, one of those little, I don't know what you call those things, but yes, to be able to have little places for people to kind of keep them somewhat contained, but they can have a little bit of freedom of movement around. Yeah.
So this is real old-fashioned Chinaware.
Yeah. And then the ceramics down below too are probably from the 17th and the 18th century. Yeah.
So you mentioned that the ceramic would
Yes.
work if it was living here.
Yeah.
Ceramic.
I can go around the other side and
Jugs.
open the other door.
So most of these houses around this.
Like the next door house is it's the newer house. It's in 1720.
Okay.
You know, and then the one next to that is like 1740 or so. Yeah, most of these houses predate the Revolution.
But this is the oldest one.
No, this is
right
not the oldest one in town. Our oldest one is 1639. This is 1677.
Okay.
Yeah, we have we have a map full of them all over town. I mean, here's a fun fact. George Washington, when he was president of the United States, he actually gave a speech right there at that house, right over there.
Okay, wow.
You know, small things like that, you know. That building, the one with the mansard style roof, you know, the bluish looking one was in the corner. Yes. He stood on the steps in there and gave a speech in 1792 when he was in Ipswich. That is, today, this is modern, as in 1927. As you can see, it's my storage closet underneath the stairwell.
See,
Sorry.
it's even the original vacuum cleaner in there.
Yes, it is a historically accurate 20th century vacuum cleaner. Yes. And an alarm system, too.
So the window that you said, there's a window, the glass.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Where?
Yes, I'm sorry. Let's see if I look carefully. Like, you have this one right there.
Okay.
Let's see, what's the best? I'm trying to see the best looking one.
Is this one?
Yeah, that's the one these are the ones I'm looking at. These are hand blown glass. This one here, you can see that one right there. There's the defects right there. Yes. You know, those are probably 300 years old or so.
And then
See?
it slowly melts.
Slowly. We're talking 10,000 years. Okay. Slowly. Very slowly. Yep.
Yeah, so that
But
it's like waves.
You can see how the little bit of waves? Yes.
Yeah, huh.
Yeah, and like this one right here, you can see just a little bit of droopage.
Yeah.
Often if you go to, like, I grew up in town here, and you see friends' houses that had old windows. Oh, there's a good example right there, the waviness.
Yeah.
That's probably the best example right there.
So what are these?
Actually, I'm sorry, there's even a better one right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the more I look at it.
What are these sticks going across? What do those do?
Okay, so if the lead holds that way, this was to keep the thing, because lead is soft.
Okay.
So instead of having the window push out, you had to support the window. So if you see how it's tying the window from going in and out,
right.
Same thing with that way and that way.
Because otherwise it wouldn't be very strong with all those panels.
Imagine a wicked windy day, you know.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you don't want that thing to get pushed in because that's very expensive. It's probably the most expensive thing in the house.
Yeah.
Type.
Hmm.
Yeah. if there was some war party coming in, people would retreat to their house. What we would do, your typical 17th century house, you see we have a door here, we have a wall here. If you notice, the stairwell is on this side. This door opens in such a way that it blocks the stairwell. So you would take your family, send them upstairs, and as a man, you would protect your family with using the door as like a shield. So you would let them come in, steal stuff out of here, okay, but you protect what you really care about is your wives and your women and children. So, and say if you got wounded because bad things are happening, the door, if you notice, automatically shuts.
Okay, it's leaning that way. So
they're all designed. So any of the 17th century houses you go in this town, you will see a door like this that automatically shuts itself. It's double boards, and then there's always a wall with a stairwell on one side and the main room on the other side. And then now we're into a different house. Okay, so now we're into a.
Look at these old hinges.
This is a 1690 house. That was a 1670 house. This is 1690 to here. Mom and Dad had kids, and the kids never left, so they just moved over here. And then the grandchildren wound up moving into this part here. So you really never left the house. You just simply expanded and added.
Yeah.
So, let's see what's up with the service quarters. Let me show you. We had a woman that lived in this house, in this room, in 1760. She sued for her freedom. The very first black person to ever sue for their freedom. She used to live in this house. And this was her quarters. You can see the ceilings are shorter, and it's not so big. But this was a place for, that's what it is.
So all this furniture in here is also that old?
Most of it, yes. Everything in there would be before 1700. This is decorated from roughly 1700 to 1730 or 1740 or so. So yes, these type of chairs, yeah, they'd be about that time period. What is? I don't know. How's that for an answer? It's art. I just don't know what it is. Yeah. Oh, you see the gun up there, huh?
There is is that a musket?
It is. Okay, so let's talk about the guy who lived in this room. His name was Joseph Hodgkins. He lived in here during the Revolutionary War. And so the day of Lexington conquered, when basically the alarm sounded, and there used to be a church kind of right over there. You see where those cars are. That's where the church used to be. First thing in the morning of the 19th of April, 1775, they rang the bell, and Joseph Hodgkins, who lived in here, he was a lieutenant. He was in charge of the South Greens militia. He grabbed his gun and went out here, and then he went with his militia. They raced out of Ipswich, and they headed south. They got all the way to Salem on the first day. On the second day, they ort all the way down to outside Boston. He fought at Bunker Hill. He fought at Brooklyn Heights. He was at White Plains. He was at Fort Lee. He was at Princeton. He was at Trenton. He was at Saratoga. He put him all the way to about 1778 or so. And if you look carefully at his gun, you might notice it's broken. We don't know how it got broken, but it is broken.
And that's actually his gun?
To our knowledge.
Okay, wow.
We can't really, he didn't write his name on it, but yes, to our knowledge, yes. So there's broken there. If you look carefully, it's broken there too. At some point during the war, this thing got broken. Now this is a typical English brown Bess, and I don't know if you know much about this. So you would see this little notch right here. That's how you knew it was English. The French had a different style, but that English. What that little knob right there is so that when you held it in your left hand would go right in that spot. And then you would go like here, and when they said ready, you had to cock this thing back. Then they said aim, you had to go point in the direction you wanted to go. Then you had to turn your head. And then they said fire, you pulled the trigger. Why did you have to turn the head? Because this right here would be a spark, and it'd be a small explosion right next to your right eye. So instead of you getting blinded in your eye, you had to go like this and turn and then pull the trigger. Just a little fun fact.
You'd have to really be a good aim doing that, huh?
When you said ready, aim, and then you had to like that, you couldn't move. What's kind of cool is that Joseph Hodgkins lived here, and he used to write letters to his wife. We have 3 examples of that from the 1750s 1775 to 1778. We have examples. We have 111 of them that exist of these letters. I can't read this hand. I can. All right.
Can you read it, Bethany, for us?
Wish you
I
luck.
can't make out all the letters. I think it's your letter about the. It looks like something.
Damage?
Damage, or I'm not sure. Damager, maybe. I'm not sure. Debt or something like that.
Yeah, they used different spellings back then too. So not only did it have the swirly things, the F and an S looked identical, at least to a modern day person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hard times. So if it looks like an F, it might be an S.
NS.
Yes.
Oh,
Look, sugar is the word sugar.
sugar me.
Yeah, it will
What's
take
co-
a long time.
Oh, what's kind of neat is we had somebody who went and translated all of them for us. So like he was at Bunker Hill, and so he wrote a letter to his wife to let her the day after Bunker Hill that, dear Sarah, I survived the battle. Our neighbor so and so, Joseph Story, I think was his name, he got hit by a cannonball, and he's not around anymore. And he had a bunch of bullets go through his jacket. And he sent the letter and his jacket back to his wife, asking her to go and fix the holes there. So that would be after Bunker Hill. Another letter that she wrote him was kind of fascinating. He was at Valley Forge, so he was down by Pennsylvania, and they had no food. And so she wrote a letter to him saying, "Hey, I haven't heard from you in 6 months. Have you met another woman? Have you got another family? Have you left me by myself?" So she thought he was cheating on her. And what he wrote, eventually he wrote back going, "Hi, honey, no, I was not. I was starving, had no paper. We were burning, anything we could, and I ate my shoe for food. It was that bad. So I was not cheating on you, honey." But yes, the funny things that were going back and forth between the family. 200 and something years old. 200 and...
An old grandfather
letters.
clock, huh?
Yes.
Wow.
All right, what else we got fun? Okay, for 17th century. Today, most of us have closets. This is what they called a closet back then. This is a cabinet. And this was a premier... This is from 1670s. And then the guy who lived here, he lives in this house. He lived in this house. This house still exists today. It's up on High Street right there. And so he built this thing. And then his son, 20 years later in 1690, built this one. These are probably the two nicest examples of 17th century colonial furniture art in the world.
They are really intricate. Wow.
Like they were in the Smithsonian for 50 years, and we just got them back.
That is
Yes.
beautiful. Do you know what kind of wood it is?
Oh, I think it's white oak, but I could be wrong. This is. I have to reread the book.
All those hand carvings. Look at that,
Oh,
David.
And what
Isn't
they
that
did is they
amazing?
cut a tree. This is not with a handsaw. Like this was, you split the wood with an axe, and then you would shave it down to make the boards, and then you hand carve everything.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. These are.
That is really
Yes.
artwork
Yep,
right there.
holders there.
In this
What
one.
are the fun
It's
things?
carved by
Oh,
knife. You can see
Yeah.
there's like a line there.
That's really, really amazing.
in the
That one's
mailbox.
not.
So this one is not quite as intricate, but wow.
So you have your outgoing mail.
Also, all
This
these
is
panels here.
Down here,
balls.
would be incoming mail. Just like this right here.
Huh.
You take a quill and you have a
Yeah.
ink in here. You clean up with a little
Now
piece
this
there.
with a knife.
And then when you're done with your letter,
I mean,
you would
I'm sure I
do
could
your
do
wax
that,
seal.
but
You would heat up your wax.
Yeah,
And then you would
that's
close up the letter using the
cool.
wax.
All exactly the same.
really fancy. It would take a long time to do that. There's an old keyhole right there. See?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a wax they use.
What do you
for
think,
sealing.
Lydia? Is that nice?
And this is obviously for cutting the candy. Before they invented a watch, you would flip this thing over. Let's see if it works. Oh, look, it does. Okay, so all the sand would take 1 hour to go from top down the bottom. This one seems going a lot faster. This might be a minute. And so that was a timekeeper. We also used to use, in the old days, before we invented watches, was this.
James,
Yeah.
careful.
Yeah, and then this, you put it, and they would have a shadow from the sun. And then if you pointed it, let's see, this would be pointing at sunrise, and then you could sit there and tell you what time of day it was, just by the old-fashioned sundial. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the.
It's pretty small.
Yeah,
The
and,
bed.
and ready for this? So this was say it's cold outside, say it's 0 degrees outside, you know. It might be, say, 40 degrees in here, because, you know, 0 out there is about 40 in here.
Keeping the heat.
Oh, they could keep the heat in there. They could get it up to like 50, 55 degrees in there.
Hey, popcorn popper?
No, it's even better than that. I mean, yes, I like the idea of a popcorn popper. Okay? They would take the hot coals, they would put it in here, and then they would put it in the bed. They put it underneath your back.
I
and
know,
then-
yeah,
so it's
it
called a
would
bed warmer. So
I remember they would put like
Yeah.
hot potatoes or hot water.
hot rocks. You heat up rocks and put it in there so it wouldn't catch fire. But usually they put hot coals in there. That's why they have the holes here to keep it a little bit of oxygen in there so it slowly would keep burning. It wouldn't combust too much. It wouldn't put it out. But yes, that's how you keep nice and warm during the winter. That's George Whitfield.
George Whitfield. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. All right. You've ever heard of the George Whitfield?
Yeah. Yeah.
The Great Awakening. He started
Yep.
the Congregationalist Church around 1720, 1740 or so. He gave a speech here in Ipswich, and it was probably his most famous one he ever gave. It helps that props. Here's a wood carving of what it was. 3,000 people showed up to listen to him, and he gave a speech up on the top of the town hill over here. You can go to Newburyport and see, well, his skull is actually on the altar at the Congregational Church in
His
downtown
actual
Newburyport.
skull.
Yes, and
Wow.
it's a holy relic because
Uh-huh.
he wound up being the most important religious. Yeah, that guy, George Whitfield. Yeah, and so they have his body in a crypt underneath the altar, and yeah, they keep his skull on top of the altar.
In the what
The
church?
Congregationalist Church,
In Newburyport.
Newburyport, right downtown, the big one right on the corner.
Okay.
Yeah, right off, was it Main Street, and whatever that street going down to the ocean? Yeah, that one. Yeah. That would be right when you get up there, I guess. Depends which way you're looking.
Oh, this is a
I look this way.
tight little stairs. All right.
We'll go into there shortly. Let's go here.
Oh, yeah.
And so we decorated this room for roughly revolutionary times. Okay. Let's look at easy things.
You get this and you pour it in to wash your face.
This is your modern day sink. Do you recognize your bathroom over here? This is your bathroom right there. Number 1 and number 2 there. And you had it in the bedroom, and then you had a servant who would come through that door, and they would come and empty it out for you in the mornings. So that way you didn't have to go outside because it was cold outside. Back in around the revolutionary times, we used to use whale oil for lighting. So this is actually this is for whale oil. And then we eventually switched to kerosene, roughly around 1800, 1820s. And this is the lace. So they would make this on that. This is a pattern right here, that belt. And they had little pins. And then they use the bobbins. And they use flax to start with, so that's all flax. And then this is during the Revolution. So during the Revolution, they didn't have access to lace because of England. We were not getting along with England, so we couldn't get their stuff from there. So they made it here instead. And they used it for money. Before we had the invention of money here in the United States, we used to use pillow lace. You'd sell a yard.
Oh wow.
But a yard of pillow lace, you could buy a cow with it. It's extremely expensive. To give you an idea, that's 10 hours worth of work, making that much. And so there was about 800 women in Ipswich. All the men had gone off to fight the war. So the women were just left, and they needed some way of making money. So they made pillow lace, mostly flax like that over there, the white ones. And then by around 1780 or so, we finally got access to the French silk industry. And so we got silk by then. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's it's a harpsichord.
Yeah, it's a harp.
It's a harpsichord, before the invention of the piano.
It's much smaller.
Much smaller,
Wow.
and it's got a pingy, and it doesn't work. Yeah.
What's it called?
A harpsichord?
Harpsichord.
Yes.
No kidding.
So, it plucks versus a piano, which is a hammer. So the piano is basically you bang on the strings, versus a harpsichord plucks the strings. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably probably around 1770, 1740, 1750. They thought it was healthier. So these are sleeping chairs. So you would sit in the chair like this. You can walk your arms like this. Put a little footstool right here, and then you slept sitting up. Very common back then. They thought it was healthier to sit up than laying down because you snored if you're laying down, and then you would get the consumption and all that. But yes, go and tighten it and pull it back. So you would just put one layer at a time, adding all the way through there.
Yeah. So did you have
I
to?
think you had to go like every other. No, sorry. These two makes it so that it goes up and down. So that way you would go one going one way, then you would flip it, and then you do the other direction. So it basically weaved. It would weave it.
How did you how did you get the strings through these?
You would have to set up a big roll here, and you would wrap up all these strings, these individual strings, on this end, and then you would put it onto that end, and then, yeah, you'd have to and you have to get through each one of these little holes, in between each of these strings.
Did you put them all by hand?
I think so.
And then the string
That the other way of doing it.
that you'd have to put in between them, you'd have to stick those in all
Yes.
by hand.
All by hand.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Wow.
It's called a shuttle, going back and forth.
Uh huh.
Yep. I'm sorry, this is a 18th century whale oil flashlight. So you can see they would have flame here, and then the flame would be magnified to one direction.
Huh. So it's like a big round piece of glass, right?
Yes, it is. It's a
A round piece of glass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you'd have a lamp behind it, and it would shine for
Yeah.
you. Wow.
Yeah, and it would focus the light in one direction.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, back down
Just be
these
careful.
narrow stairs. Yeah. Okay. Back outside. In the herb garden.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll see what other fun things that happen in this area. Like I said, George Washington actually gave a speech right over there. That was when the last year of his presidency.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Where right on that stone, by that stone wall?
See the two columns?
Uh-huh.
That was a tavern back then.
Okay.
The foundation and the roof is after the Revolution.
Uh-huh.
But the middle section of that building was during the Revolution times.
Okay.
Yeah. So they picked up the building and put a new foundation in, and they
Yeah.
put a different kind of roof on top.
Yeah.
But the original building there, that was a tavern
Okay.
of that time period. The stone you see right there was the South Church.
Uh-huh.
We had two congregational churches in Ipswich.
So this is Whipple House, circa 1677. We're done with our inside tour of both of those houses, and now we're just walking around the outside. Oh, it is, isn't it? Now we're just walking around on the trails right here on the same grounds as the John Whipple house. So they have trails going through this meadow here.
Papa, is this a maze?
No, it's just trails. It's not a maze.
Papa, this is a heart. The water.
Oh, this is that pond.
Mama, this is the heart-shaped pond.
Is it?
Yeah.
These old houses are so pretty with those little window panes. You found what?
3 cicada shells.
3 cicada shells.
On that tree.
Oh yeah, so those are the shells of the cicada
Hard? No.
when they
Squish them, don't break.
when they come out of the ground, and then they climb out of their shells and then they fly away. So David found 3 of them on that
Did you
tree.
see the one when it came out of the shell? There's one stuck in the trampoline.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I saw
Okay, well that's the end of our time here at the Whipple House in Ipswich. So we enjoyed our time here. This is a really really cool experience here. A very old house.